Have you ever sat in silence after a conversation with your child and thought, when did they stop speaking to me with kindness? Maybe it was something they said that stung, too sharp, too cold, too dismissive. Or maybe it wasn't even what they said, but how they said it. A look, a sigh, a shrug, and you're left there, carrying the weight of words and tones that shouldn't have come from someone you raised with love. You're not alone in this. Many parents, especially later in life, find themselves quietly struggling with the pain of being disrespected by their own children. It's a pain that hits deep because it doesn't just hurt your feelings, it shakes your foundation. You start to question, did I fail somewhere? Am I being too sensitive? Should I say something or let it go? And in that confusion, one of the biggest dangers is reacting in a way that chips away at your self-respect. That's why today, I want to talk to you about 5 things you should never do when your child disrespects you. Not because they don't deserve a reaction, but because you deserve peace, clarity, and dignity. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever felt the urge to snap back when someone crosses the line? Maybe your son raised his voice at you. Maybe your daughter rolled her eyes and muttered something under her breath. And in that moment, your whole body tensed. Your heart raced. Your pride flared. You wanted to say something, anything, that would put them in their place. That would show them you're not someone to be dismissed or disrespected. That urge is natural. We're wired to defend ourselves when hurt. But here's the problem. When you match their disrespect with equal force, you're not standing up for yourself. You're stepping into their storm. You're letting them control the moment and drag you into a space where anger leads the way and love takes a back seat. This isn't about being passive. This is about power. True power doesn't shout. It doesn't need to slam the door or fire back an insult. True power is steady. It's choosing to remain rooted in who you are, even when someone else is losing their grip. When you respond with calm, you're not letting it slide. You're letting them know that their words don't have the power to shake you. I know it's hard, especially when you feel like you're being misunderstood or taken for granted. But staying composed in those moments is not weakness. It's strength. It's emotional discipline. It's choosing your peace over proving a point. Because that one sharp word you might throw back, it feels satisfying for a second, but the regret afterward, that stays longer. And here's something else I want you to think about. What message do you send to yourself when you let disrespect go unchecked? What message do you send to them? When your child crosses a line and you stay silent to keep the peace, it may feel like you're taking the high road. But silence, if repeated too often, becomes permission. Not just to them, but to yourself. You begin to shrink a little. You start second-guessing whether your needs, your voice, your boundaries even matter anymore. And over time, that takes a toll. Not all at once, but slowly, like drops wearing away at stone. Disrespect is rarely a one-time event. It often begins as something small, a tone, a joke at your expense, a dismissive comment. If you brush it off every time, it doesn't go away. It grows. What you allow is what will continue. Setting a boundary doesn't require a lecture. It doesn't mean shouting or arguing or issuing ultimatums. It means clarity. It means calmly but firmly saying, "That's not how I want to be spoken to," or "I don't appreciate that tone." It means showing, through your tone and your presence, that you value yourself enough not to accept behavior that devalues you. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't owe anyone a long defense of your feelings. A clear, respectful boundary says more than a dozen explanations ever could. It's not about punishing your child. It's about protecting your spirit. Now I know, many parents in their 60s or beyond were raised in a time where keeping quiet was seen as strength. You didn't air your grievances. You didn't push back. You were told to be patient, understanding, to hold the family together no matter what. But patience without boundaries becomes self-neglect. And holding the family together shouldn't come at the cost of falling apart inside. Some of you watching this might be thinking, but what if they don't listen? What if setting boundaries pushes them away? My friend, here's the truth. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. And the ones who don't? They've been benefiting from your silence. You are not here to carry the emotional weight of your grown children's moods. You are not here to be their emotional punching bag. You are not here to accept less than the respect you deserve just to avoid conflict. You are here to live with dignity, with peace, with self-respect. And that starts with knowing where your boundaries lie and having the courage to uphold them gently but firmly. You might be surprised how things shift when you begin to do this. You may lose a few arguments, but you'll gain something far more valuable: self-respect. And once that's in place, your energy, your clarity, and your emotional freedom begin to return. Because nothing is heavier than pretending something doesn't bother you when deep down it's been hurting you for years. So, if your child disrespects you, don't meet fire with fire. And don't meet it with silence either. There's a middle ground, one that requires strength, clarity, and love for yourself. And it's on that ground that you begin to change not just the conversation, but the relationship itself. Now let's talk about something else we often don't realize we're doing that can harm us even more than the disrespect itself. One of the most common mistakes we make, especially as parents who've spent decades giving, sacrificing, and showing up, is believing that if we can just get them to understand, they'll treat us better. So when they disrespect us, we try to explain. We justify. We tell ourselves, maybe if I say it differently, they'll finally see. And before we know it, we're chasing their approval, hoping for an apology that never comes. But here's the truth. Seeking validation from someone who just disrespected you is like asking the wind to hold still. It doesn't work, and it only leaves you more tired, more disappointed, and more confused than before. Because someone who truly sees your worth wouldn't have treated you that way to begin with. And no matter how many times you try to explain, you cannot force someone to respect you from a place of entitlement or arrogance. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially when the person is your own child. You raised them. You've fed them, loved them, sat up late at night worrying about them. You've sacrificed in ways they may never understand. So when they brush you off or speak harshly, of course a part of you wants them to recognize what they've done. You want them to say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong." But what you have to understand is this. Your value is not a debate. It's not up for discussion. And it's certainly not something that needs their confirmation. The more you chase after it, the more you give them power over how you feel about yourself. That's not love. That's dependency. And that's not where your strength lies. I want to gently remind you, your worth was never built on someone else's ability to see it. Your self-respect is not a mirror that only works when someone else stands in front of it. It is yours, and it has always been yours, even if they can't or won't recognize it. This is especially important in the later stages of life, because this is the time when you deserve to feel light, not burdened by the emotional weight of others' poor behavior. You've earned the right to stop over-explaining yourself, to stop begging to be seen, to stop asking for what should be given freely: respect, kindness, basic decency. And when you stop looking to them to fix what they broke, you begin to fix something far more important: your own peace. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop trying to manage their moods like it's your responsibility. And you start reclaiming the most sacred thing you've got left: your emotional freedom. Now, this doesn't mean you shut off your heart or pretend nothing hurts. It means you acknowledge what happened and then decide with quiet strength: I don't need their apology to move forward. I don't need their validation to feel whole. That's when real healing begins. Not when they change, but when you decide you're done tying your worth to how they treat you. Let's take a moment to think about emotional reactions too. Because disrespect stings. Sometimes it even burns. and your first instinct might be to lash out. Maybe you've felt that sharp wave of anger rise up, the kind that makes your hands tremble and your voice tighten. You want to say something that hurts just as much as what they said to you. You want to make them feel what they made you feel. But here's the hard part. When you react out of emotion, especially in the heat of the moment, you hand them the keys to your peace. You give them the power to decide what kind of day you're going to have, what mood you're going to be in, and even how you see yourself in that moment. That's a heavy price to pay. Emotional control isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about choosing how and when to care. It's about pausing, breathing, letting the initial wave of feeling pass before deciding your next step. Because you know what? The person who disrespected you might not remember that moment tomorrow, but you will. And how you showed up in that moment stays with you. There's real strength in staying calm when someone tries to shake you. You don't have to yell. You don't have to slam the door or send long messages trying to make them understand. Sometimes the strongest move is the quiet one, the moment where you choose not to react but to respond. And that response might simply be a boundary, a change in tone, or a decision to walk away. Let me say this clearly. You are allowed to remove yourself from conversations that harm your peace. You are allowed to say, "We'll talk when you're ready to speak respectfully." You are allowed to choose your dignity over drama, your calm over conflict. That doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. And you know what else it does? It teaches. It shows your child, and anyone else watching, that you will not be pulled into chaos just because someone else doesn't know how to handle their emotions. It teaches them what composure looks like, what self-respect sounds like, and most importantly, what boundaries feel like. We often think of boundaries as fences we build to keep people out, but really, they're invitations to a higher standard of how we expect to be treated. And when you consistently model those boundaries with quiet strength, the people around you begin to rise, or they step back. Either way, you win. It takes courage to do this. It takes a deep belief that your peace matters just as much, if not more, than maintaining harmony at any cost. And when you start living from that belief, you'll find a new kind of strength inside you. One that doesn't need loud words or emotional explosions. One that's grounded, calm, and deeply unshakable. Now let's look at one more common trap. One that's easy to fall into when you've been disrespected again and again, and it's starting to wear you down. After enduring enough moments of disrespect, silence can start to feel like the safest path. You might think, "What's the point of saying anything? They won't listen anyway." Or, "I don't want to cause drama." So you hold your tongue. You sit with your discomfort. You bury your feelings just to keep the peace. But here's the hidden danger in that silence. It slowly teaches the people around you that it's okay to treat you that way. Not because you deserve it. Not because you're weak. But because you didn't speak up when you had the chance. And the longer that silence goes on, the more acceptable the behavior becomes in their eyes. You might tell yourself, "It's not worth the fight." But staying quiet doesn't always prevent conflict. Sometimes it only delays it. And in the meantime, it chips away at your confidence and your sense of self. Because deep down, you know you should have said something. And that regret, that quiet pain, it stays with you much longer than a few moments of discomfort ever would. Using your voice doesn't mean you have to raise it. It doesn't mean you need to argue or demand. It means you draw a line. It means you say, "That was not okay." And you say it not with anger, but with certainty, with calm, with the quiet dignity of someone who knows their worth. The beautiful thing about using your voice with clarity is that it removes confusion. It tells your child exactly what you will and will not tolerate. And yes, sometimes they won't like it. Sometimes they'll push back. But that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. That means you're changing a pattern they've grown comfortable with. And growth, true growth, is almost always uncomfortable at first. Some people genuinely don't know they've crossed a line until you tell them. Others know exactly what they're doing, and they're counting on your silence to keep doing it. Either way, your voice is your power. Your voice is your compass. And when you use it, you're not just standing up to them. You're standing up for you. You don't need a speech. You don't need a dramatic moment. Sometimes it's as simple as, "I don't like how that made me feel," or "That's not how I want to be spoken to." Those words don't have to be loud to be powerful. They just have to be clear, and they have to come from a place of respect for yourself. Consistency is key. If you speak up once and let it go the next time, people get mixed signals. They don't know where the boundary really is. But when you consistently uphold your standards, calmly, clearly, and without apology, you begin to rewire the relationship. You begin to reteach people how to treat you. This doesn't just protect your peace. It restores your confidence. Because the more you honor your own limits, the more you believe in your own value. You stop living for other people's comfort, and you start living in alignment with your own truth. And let me tell you, there's nothing more liberating than that. Still, even after all of this, even after holding your ground, setting boundaries, speaking up, it's easy to carry those moments of disrespect with you, to replay them in your mind, to lie awake at night wondering what you could have said differently, how you could have avoided it, why they did it in the first place. But here's what I want you to remember. You don't have to carry that weight. Just because someone handed you their disrespect doesn't mean you have to take it home with you. That energy, that negativity, it only stays with you if you invite it in. When someone disrespects you, it says more about them than it ever could about you. Their words, their tone, their behavior, that's a reflection of where they are, not where you are. You don't need to wear their frustration like it's your responsibility. You don't need to hold on to their rudeness like it somehow belongs in your story. Letting go isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's not about denying your feelings or brushing things under the rug. It's about deciding that the moment doesn't deserve any more of your time, your energy, or your peace. It's about choosing to protect your spirit from the lasting effects of a temporary lapse in someone else's character. Some moments are meant to teach us, not stay with us. They remind us to stand taller, speak clearer, love ourselves better. But once the lesson is learned, we're meant to move on. Carrying disrespect like a heavy coat only keeps you walking in circles. But putting it down? That frees you to walk forward, with clarity, with lightness, with strength. And that's what I wish for you. Not just peace, but a deep, lasting sense of self-respect. One that doesn't waver with someone else's bad day. One that doesn't shrink in the face of harsh words. One that stays firm, grounded, and full of quiet power. Because no matter how your child treats you in a single moment, you are still the parent who has given love, time, care, and countless second chances. That role, that legacy, it's not erased by one disrespectful exchange. And when you live with strength and self-respect, you don't just protect your own peace, you model something powerful for everyone around you. The people who truly love and respect you will meet you at that level. And the ones who don't? Well, they'll eventually fall away. Not because you pushed them out, but because you simply stopped shrinking to fit. There's something deeply powerful about knowing you don't have to react to every storm that passes through your life. And when the storm comes from your own child, that power becomes even more important, because the pain runs deeper, and the temptation to either lash out or shut down feels even stronger. But your power isn't in your anger, and it certainly isn't in your silence. Your power is in your ability to stay true to yourself, no matter how others behave. It's in the quiet strength that says, "I deserve to be treated with respect, even if I have to teach you how." There may come a time, maybe it's already happened, when your child disrespects you and walks away like it meant nothing. They slam the door, end the call, or send that text that leaves your heart aching. And you're left standing there, questioning not just their actions, but your own identity as a parent. In that moment, You might feel like you've failed. You might wonder if all your years of sacrifice meant anything. But please hear me when I say this. One moment of disrespect does not erase a lifetime of love. You are not defined by that moment. You are defined by your grace in handling it. You don't need to win an argument to win your peace. You don't need to prove your worth to someone who can't see it. And you certainly don't need to hold on to their pain like it belongs to you. What you do need, what you deserve, is to live your life in a way that honors the years you've spent becoming the person you are today. You've raised children. You've faced challenges. You've survived heartbreaks and made it through more than many will ever know. You've earned your wisdom, your rest, your right to speak up, and your right to walk away. And more than anything, you've earned the freedom to protect your peace, especially when others threaten it. So if your child continues to disrespect you, you don't need to beg. You don't need to chase them or twist yourself into someone you're not to gain their approval. You simply need to stand, not with anger, not with guilt, but with calm, clear boundaries that say, "This is what I accept. This is who I am. And this is how I expect to be treated." And then you hold that line, even if they ignore you for a while. Even if they sulk, even if they don't call on your birthday, because your value doesn't vanish in their absence. In fact, your value shines brighter when you don't abandon yourself just to hold on to someone else. I know it's not easy. I know the silence can be deafening, and the ache of an ungrateful child can pierce deeper than most wounds. But healing doesn't come from waiting for them to change. It comes from deciding that you deserve better, and being willing to live like it. And often, when you start showing up differently, when you stop engaging in the drama, when you protect your time and energy, when you speak with dignity instead of desperation, something shifts. Either they rise to meet you, or they fall away. But in either case, you remain whole. Sometimes your greatest act of love is not in how much you give, but in how clearly you say, "This is enough." Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Not because you've stopped loving them, but because you've started loving yourself more completely. And here's something else I want you to remember. Just because your child doesn't always act like it, doesn't mean they don't still need your example. They're watching you, even when they roll their eyes. They're learning how to handle relationships, how to set boundaries, how to respond when they feel hurt or dismissed, by watching you. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not next year, they may come to understand the strength it took for you to say, "No more." They may finally see the wisdom behind your quiet distance, your refusal to be pulled into another shouting match, your calm insistence that your time, your heart, your energy deserve respect. Until then, keep living your life with grace. Enjoy your coffee. Water your plants. Call that friend who makes you laugh. Write in your journal. Take that walk in the late afternoon sun. Show yourself the care that you've spent a lifetime giving to others. Because when you begin to treat yourself the way you've always wanted others to treat you, everything starts to change. Your peace deepens. Your confidence grows. And slowly, without force or fury, the world around you starts to respond to your new standard. So let them say what they will. Let them come or go. Let them struggle to understand. Your job is not to fix their behavior. It's to protect your heart, to honor your journey, to choose peace over people-pleasing and self-respect over silence. If no one else has told you lately, you matter. Your feelings matter. Your voice matters. And you deserve to be spoken to with love, not because you're perfect, but because you're human, because you've lived, because you've earned it. And if that respect doesn't come from them, then let it begin with you. If this video spoke to your heart, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Share your story. Your voice might be the encouragement someone else is searching for today. And if you found comfort or strength here, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's one simple way we can keep building this space together. a place of peace, wisdom, and quiet strength for every season of life. Here's to your courage, your clarity, your calm, and to living each day with the kind of self-respect that needs no permission. You are worthy, always have been,